So you have an awesome split test result that you think is going to make an extra $1 million a year. You're probably wrong. Welcome to the Treachery of Data podcast, the companion podcast for the CRO Roundtable. Bite-sized chunk of content summarizing what we discussed last. Yeah, so one of our big topics was the pitfalls of experiment results, extrapolation, or annualization. Taking you know numerical results from a split test and trying to apply them over a long period time frame after the test is concluded. My example at the start there of like, oh, you have a test results and it's showing, your variation made, you know, uh, extra, $100 a day or something like that. And then taking that value and annualizing it over the course of a year. Now, today we kind of want to get into why that's maybe not the best idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in terms of like why people do it, then, so this is why people want to extrapolate results over a period of a year or whatever. Um,
Yeah. It's a natural thing because you're like doing your work and you want to sort of demonstrate the continuous value of the work that you've accomplished. Like, hey, we did this great thing. Here's what its benefit is going to be long term, right? You're trying to prove the value of the work that you're doing. Or at least that's one of the ways that I interpret it of like why people try to annualize
and
results.
also it's because CRO is one of those few kind of industries or areas of the company that almost have to prove their existence a lot of the time. Like they have to prove, oh yeah, so we're giving you this much money, prove the value that we're getting out of this. So
You're talking profit center versus cost center and
yeah,
how,
yeah,
business divisions are assigned. Yeah, and I guess traditionally CRO has emerged, at least initially, like a lot of times it comes out of the marketing
mhm,
department, right?
mhm.
And marketing is typically seen as a driver in some ways. I mean, I haven't run enough businesses to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
make that clarification, but you know,
Yeah, and I think this is I think you hit on a really key point there, because this is I think a CRO because it started off from the marketing division, and because the marketing division are very much kind of like, well, this is what we forecast. These are the results that we're going to get based on our marketing, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff, and especially working for an agency that was a marketing agency, and them wanting to create a CRO function. This was the
is
kind of
this
the key thing.
your actual anecdotal experience or are you
Yeah, yeah,
hypothesizing?
my
Okay.
anecdotal experience. So I was so this is a marketing agency that was building out a CRO division, and I was drafted in to look after the CRO division, or at least kind of like consult on that aspect. And one of the things that I found was specifically with this company. I don't know if this can be generalized across other companies, but what specifically found was like that they wanted to roadmap and show results in a very sort of granular way across like an annual sort of an annual view. So in the same way that they say, let's run some PPC campaigns, we're going to put in this much money into the PPC campaigns, and we're going to get this much money back. So getting it down to that granular level and road mapping everything down to a T. So this was kind of like what I saw was kind of happening, and yeah,
Agency trying to justify their fees.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah,
Like, hey, I'm charging you like on think about it from the client's perspective. Like they're charging me this much money and nothing's happening. Like
yeah.
they're
Show me
they're
the result.
running all the they're running all these tests that are showing me that my website's already great. Like, I'm just flushing money down the toilet here.
Yeah, yeah, and it is a kind of like a lot of the time it is the market. A lot of the time, especially when you're working for or with an agency, um, the people who are actually doing the experimentation wouldn't necessarily be the people who have brought in and signed off the contracts with these companies, and
Mhm.
with these companies, they'd often sign them up with some kind of or set of goals in mind, and then those goals have to be mapped down to a roadmap, and what you have to show whether or not you've met those goals. So I guess, yeah, that could be one of the places that it comes from. One of the reasons why it gets done, especially when in an agency setting, and especially even in a company setting, because there are seen as being some costs involved of this new department of like, oh yeah, this department has experimentation tools and they got people running experimentation. We want to see the results coming back to see whether or not this is actually working. And because it's kind of like a new area often, like and perhaps there's some skepticism of to its uses, then even more so they're after to see, like, hey, this experiment says that this made X amount. Let's see if it's true, uh, or how much money
Mhm.
that result is actually going to increment, etc. So
Right. Uh, it it really just boils down to attempts to quantify the value of experimentation,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is not actually a simple thing
mm,
to do. And even to sidebar a second, because something you said around like, oh, we're trying to justify our fees and running all these experiments and not getting results and stuff, or like, there's something that's often overlooked is, especially with seeing CRO as like a profit driver or a ROI generator of like, oh, you have to be chasing winning experiments all the time, right?
mm,
Um, the overlooked aspect of, well, you're evaluating changes, all of the changes that you determine you shouldn't make, you're preventing yourself from doing damage, right? Like
mm,
there's the whole people call them a loss, but I always champion the term using a save instead, because 'cause you're saving yourself from losing money. Now that's harder to articulate to say, "Hey, we prevented ourselves from going down a bad path or making a bad decision." And that's really where the value of experimentation lies, is preventing poor decisions from being made rather than explicitly good decisions being made. Like, you think about, oh, all of these ideas that we had to make changes to the website. If we had actually done all of those different changes, where would the site be now versus, like, avoiding making those poor changes? Like, and all of the yeah. Right, it's really about, like, resource allocation, making sure that you're devoting your resources to making positive impacts.
yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, so along those lines, then taking and extrapolating the test results, right? And this is something I'm sure, a lot of junior people, or even when you're, like, coming up and, like, doing experimentation on your own, you're, like, getting your feet wet and you're starting to be comfortable. And you're like, I've run a bunch of tests now, and I wanna figure out, like, what's the overall impact of the testing program now? Okay, well, I kinda need some kind of way to figure that out.
mm,
So I start to dabble with results extrapolation in some way, right? Because you have, like, hard numbers from the test results. So there should be, and it was, run over a period of time. So theoretically, there's a natural thought towards, oh, I can take these numbers over this duration and use that to estimate.
yeah.
And
Yeah, you absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point actually, because there is this kind of like it's really enticing because you're one step away. So you've got these results. So this result I ran on the homepage has given a scene like a 10% uplift. And now you're one step away from asking like, oh, a 10% uplift. What is that? What does that mean in terms of monetary value? Or the
Mhm.
monetary value during the lifetime of the test was X amount. Ah, so what's the monetary value over the years? And you're not too far away from asking those questions, and because you've got those, because it feels like you've got the data to then just like extrapolate it out. Say, I've got the runtime of the experiment. I can now extrapolate it out towards the entire year. It kind of, it kind of invites you like some kind of seductress, what is it called? The sirens of the sea sort of thing. Yeah, come on, come on. We've got a great song for you. It's called Annual Uplift. So yeah, so let's get into the pitfalls then. So say like
Yeah.
I've run my A/B test. I've seen like it's 5% uplift, and I've run it on like on the segment on my results product results page. So why like what are the pitfalls of me just saying, okay, so if my uplift was 10% for this period, I just need to times it by like it ran for a month or whatever. So just times it by 12, isn't it? It's simple.
Yeah, so I have practical experience here because I went through this exact journey when I first started getting into experimentation. Like, I had this exact same thought path of like, "Oh, I've run all of these tests, I've got all of these great results. What's the cumulative benefit effect long-term value of these things?" Right? And so I started to do annualization and result extrapolation, especially because I was working in e-commerce. So I was dealing with, like, revenue numbers of, like, order transactions, like, revenue generated on the website. It's like, "Oh, I can math this out. Like, I've got some secret sauce here." Right? And the formula that I immediately started with was like, "Okay, I have a test result, and I have a certain value of revenue that the result has generated, let's work with some simple numbers here, like, like the test ran for 30 days and resulted in 30,000 extra dollars for the variation. Okay, so if it was $30,000, then and it was 30 days, that means that it was generating about $1,000 a day, right? On average, right? Like, sure, there was more or less on a given day, but, if you average it out, right? Okay. Now, that was only 50% of the traffic. So if we apply this to 100% of the traffic, it you'd multiply it by 2 because it was only 50% effective. So now it's okay, this making this change, if we show it to everybody, should be resulting in an additional $2,000 a day. Now, if I wanna figure out, okay, what's the annual impact of that? Well, there's 365 days in a year, and I've figured out my daily increase, so I just have to multiply it by 365. So 2,000 times 365 is, I'm busting out my calculator because I can't do that math in my head. That's an additional $730,000 a year. Wow, that's amazing. Like, I ran this one test and it's generating 730,000 additional dollars a year. Man, like, and I'm only charging the client how much per month? Like, one winning test should more than justify whatever I'm charging for my retainer. This is fantastic. All I have to do is find one good test result per year, and I've totally justified the cost of, my fees. Since I was already tracking all of my test results in a database, I have all of that revenue information and everything. I've figured out my formula, so I can just, add a column to do all that math for me and annualize all those results. So I go ahead and do that, and now I'm still running tests, and I'm like 6 months later, I'm looking at these results, and I'm thinking, "Okay, we found, you know, 3 or 4 additional winners in those 6 months, and I've done the annualization on those too." Now, if I add the results of all that annualization together, man, they should really be making a couple extra $1,000,000 a year here off of this thing. This is really I've got some kind of secret sauce here going on. But then it all comes crashing down to reality the second you have to go and look in at any kind of data in Google Analytics or, analytics. You go and you look at that and you look at like what's the e-com, the revenue line over time. And you're like, it's not jumping up. We're clearly not making millions more dollars a year based off of the testing efforts.
So let's
So
one of those things is like in summary, the calculation is really simplistic. So then I've been in the situation where we've had data scientists try to figure out, okay, so it's simplistic. Let's try and find out um, a more complex model to figure it out, and you turn into it becomes like weeks, months and months of like complex modeling to work it out. And one of the, I'll start with one of the reasons. One of the reasons is seasonality.
mhm,
So,
yep,
so the time that you run your test, the next month, there's a different set of users, different set of sort of drivers, motivating factors for those users. The whole world has kind of changed,
e
and the results are not necessarily going to be the same in that month
right.
as the previous month. And
Annualizing those results assumes static behavior change in
yeah,
perpetuity,
yeah,
whereas the world is not static.
yeah,
Like, there's general, like, rises and falls of things, like, even looking at Google Analytics, right, you can see, depending on your site, your the amount of traffic your site gets is different on a weekday versus over the weekend,
mhm,
or beginning of the month versus end of the month. Um, what type of products do you sell? Like, if you're a swimwear company, you probably get a lot more business in late winter and early spring than you do, in the fall, because people are buying swimsuits to swim during the summer. They're not buying
mhm.
swimsuits to swim during the winter. Uh,
Maybe buying.
yeah, right. Depending on your business, depending on, yeah, different factors. There's seasonality at play, and that was part of my journey as well, was figuring that out, because I went through my annualization exercise. I realized, like, this data isn't really correct, and
Mm.
fortunately, I wasn't reporting that data out, so it wasn't like, providing a an illusory sense of success. But I was seeing, like, these numbers aren't correct. There must be something. That got me along the path of seasonality. So now it's like, okay, I need to incorporate that. So I tried to like, create, instead of a simple formula, more of like an algorithm or a model that would try and account for seasonality, and, like, looking at, okay, for the period of time that the test ran, what was that, like, historically, what was that overall percentage of site traffic during that time versus, like, historically throughout the year, or percent revenue. So I was, like, trying to see, like, percent chunks to see, like, is this a busy period or a slow period, and using that as a mitigating factor too.
And the other
But
factor.
even then, it still wasn't it's like, long story short, it still wasn't correct.
Yeah, yeah, it's still yeah, yeah. It's kind of like you're recounting the path that a lot of people I think take when they try to figure out a way to annualize results. Because another factor is the fact that your website is never really static, or hopefully it's not static, because you'd be pushing through PPC traffic, lots of marketing campaigns. You'd be perhaps like rolling out some other experiment wins that could either amplify or uh, de-amplify, whatever the opposite of amplify is, the win that of the test in question. So yeah, your website itself is not really or shouldn't be a static sort of environment either. So not only is seasonality, the user base changing and the world changing, but your website is also constantly in a state of flux.
Yeah. There's many complex factors
Yeah.
to try and do long-term annualization of results.
And the other thing,
Now, oh, sorry, someone's gonna come back, I'm sure, like, okay, devil's advocate. It's like, well, if
right,
you can't evaluate the performance of test results after the test is concluded, well, then testing is useless. Like
mhm.
if you don't, like, if you can't figure out the benefit, the long term benefit of a test result, why would it? Why does it even matter if you run the test then? Like, oh, I'm just flushing money away running these tests if they can't be certain.
And I think a key thing to understanding that is the fact that why is it that it's not very accurate? And Craig in the roundtable just summed it up really nicely. If you take the mean, a lot of people take the mean of the test win and they just use that to do the extrapolation. But in fact, the test result win itself has a degree of fuzziness to it. So it could be, 10% win plus or minus 9% or whatever.
Right. Results aren't a single line on a graph.
Yeah.
They're a bar chart with a upper and lower bounds within that range. And that's something that early on a lot of people miss with experimentation, especially if you're like trying to summarize results and report them outside of the experimentation team, right? A
Yeah.
nice line chart presents a pretty picture, but it's an overly simplistic way of interpreting the results, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I appreciate with some of the testing tools actually show like will actually graph the standard deviation to paint a better picture there. Like I know we all malign Google Optimize a lot, but that did a really good job of actually graphing the standard deviation and not just a median line. I remember when Convert finally added a feature where you could toggle on graphing of standard deviation. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. Like it helps demonstrate that, test results aren't singularly concrete. Um, and so if you wanted to try and extrapolate or annualize test results, you'd have to like extrapolate from the upper and lower bounds of the standard deviation. Like,
Yeah.
what's the best possible scenario for the high end of the deviation? What's the worst possible scenario for the high end of the deviation? And then same thing for the low end of the deviation. Like, and then once you're annualizing off of those, you can see like, oh, it's just gonna like dovetail into this like huge wide divide where the upper and lower bounds are so high that yeah, I mean, sure, the median shows this, but you're showing a median average of like, if you extrapolate, it's like, oh, it could be plus or minus, 70% range or something like that. And with a deviation that high off of an estimation, it's like, well, that's, you
And
know,
sometimes
it's
the
completely
conversion rate
useless.
difference could go into the negative as well. So it could be negative, the control group. People are going, huh? How does that happen? Well, the range could be so large that it could, if you're looking at looking at the mean of the control, it could be below the lower threshold of the test could be below the mean of the control. Another thing is the fact that, I mean, we're talking about conversion rates, but when you go to extrapolate and attach a monetary value to that, revenue is an extremely noisy metric
Right.
to measure.
That's an excellent point as well, because revenue is not a binary calculation, right? It's not a user performed this behavior, yes or no, right? It's not an increment of one plus or minus one. Revenue is a range of monetary information. So that makes it even wider of a range.
Yeah, exactly. So with all of those, with all of that noise and with all of those variables and etc., what should you do about it? So like, what are some alternatives to try to calculate out the revenue over the year?
Yeah. Well, instead of trying to calculate revenue over a year, try and figure out over a shorter period of time frame. Like limit yourself to like, oh, maybe like uh, we can be certain that it'll affect, it'll have this kind of effect for the next month or 2 months or 3 months or something. Like try and extrapolate off of a shorter time frame because the longer you go out, right, the wider the deviation is going to get as a cause of outside influences. Um, or instead of trying to extrapolate revenue, which is a hugely variable metric, try and evaluate off of a more concrete metric, like
Mm.
a goal that has a singular event, like order conversion rate or add to cart rate or something like that. And then like have some sort of maybe rough monetary value that you assign to that instead. Like if you're increasing the number of orders that you get, well, you probably have some sort of idea around like what's your average order size. And, instead of like, oh, revenue is being boosted by this much, it's like, oh, we're generating 10 additional orders. And on average, our average order value is $100 per order. So maybe that's, an extra $1,000 or
Mm.
something like that instead. Cause then yeah, you're going to be a little bit less susceptible to variability.
And I just want to step back a second because I think we missed one other point in terms of um, what are the things that people miss when they're trying to annualize the results.
Mm.
And that one of the key things is and I find this now and again is people fail to realize the difference between test uplift and the overall site uplift because a
Oh,
test
yes. Yeah.
yeah, because a test uplift, like say I'm running a test on the checkout page and I see a 20% increase to conversion. Well, the 20% increase to conversion is based on a specific segment of users.
Yes, it's the users that view the checkout or whatever the targeting conditions of the test are. Right. Report it. Yeah. And there's a trap there of reporting percentages.
Yeah. And then,
Right.
and then using that percentage to go, okay, yeah, that's 20% of all. And when especially when you are put out dashboards, it can be really tempting and could be people look at those dashboards and go, wow, that's a 30% increase. Never mind the fact that it's, when you segment it down, it's all over 100 people in the test or whatever.
Right, exactly, right, the test had a particular goal in mind for targeting a specific audience, like, maybe you're trying to make a change for on the mobile checkout experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, those results are only within the context of mobile users who viewed the checkout page.
Yeah.
That's not the entirety of the site traffic, like, what's the percentage of overall site traffic that fit within that segment? It's probably a fairly small percentage overall. Yeah, and like you said, you're reporting percentages, yeah, right, only reporting percentages is always misleading. Like, you can report, like you said, a 30% uplift. Well, a 30% uplift could be going from 10 to 13,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Where it's like, "Oh, we got 3 more people to add an item to the cart."
Yeah.
Well, we get 100,000 visitors to product pages every day. So getting 3 more people in total to add an item to their cart is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but a 30% uplift looks really good. But if you're reporting that, that's a bullshit number.
And so yeah, so now going back to like one of the key things I when looking at alternative ways of ways to look at or annualizing revenue or getting some sort of result, I think one of the key things I try to look at is what are the questions like why do you need to annualize it? What is the what are the underlying factors uh, to kind of annualizing? And we mentioned a few at the beginning, like for example, do you need to prove the ROI of your experimentation function, for instance, or is it just sheer sort of vanity in terms of, hey, this is how well we are doing as an experimentation function, not necessarily because people are asking for it, just because, hey, this really looks good or whatever is a nice way of reporting it. Or is there some other reason why you need to why you need to feel like you need to annualize it. And if you go back to those questions, there could be other metrics that you could look at that could answer that question. For instance, uh, if it's about, you know, proving ROI of the experimentation function, well, then you could be looking at, not necessarily annual revenue uplift, but in taking into account all of the losses and stuff like that. And like you were saying, looking at a very short term sort of view and calculating out, and this is something we did in the last place we worked, calculating out the value per experiment in terms of never mind win or loss, what is a value per experiment, and then figuring it out, working it out from that perspective, using the current data and not needing to extrapolate at all. So there could be other ways of doing it, but yeah, just kind of like going back to base and just kind of go, hey, let's hold off.
Meta-analysis, evaluating the cumulative effect of
Yeah,
like, the cumulative known effect of, "Oh, the test resulted in this much revenue for this time frame. Okay, we at least know that, like, for this period of time, we generated additional revenue."
yeah,
Now, it probably generated additional revenue past the ending point of the experiment, but we at least know that it did for this amount of time. Now, add those up from all the different tests that you've run so far, that can at least make an attempt. Now, is there a trap there in adding the effect of multiple tests together to try and summarize?
yeah, it's an easier calculation, but it's also a calculation that is not straightforward. So
Yeah.
it's there are some pitfalls to working that out as well. Like the mistake to make is that I've got a 5% test rate, I've got a 3% test rate, I've got a 4% test rate. Well, then all together, I've got whatever those numbers were that I said. So the sum of those
Well,
numbers.
you're already running into problems adding percentages together
Yeah,
there.
exactly,
Right.
right.
But
But
even if it was like concrete numbers of like, this test generated $10,000.
yeah,
This test generated $5,000. This test also generated $5,000. So cumulatively, we have a 2,000 or $20,000 more. No, not necessarily. Like, each test is not necessarily a unique instance. Like, it's not, there could be very easily be user overlap between tests. Like, unless you know for certain, like, the users that were in this test were not also in this test, you can't add those numbers together
yeah.
because, if one user was exposed to two different tests during the same period, uh, the revenue that then generated from an order is reported on two different tests. So now you're adding, you're basically like duplicating numbers.
And then contributing to that fact is that every single test have their own fuzziness, have their own seasonality, have their own et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, there's a real risk that a lot of people listening to this are going to go, well, what's the point in testing anyway?
Right.
So,
That was the question that I was asking
yeah,
earlier, where it's like, well, if you can't figure this stuff out, like if it's quote unquote impossible to do this, why should you test any to begin with?
because and I think in terms of to answer that or to that one thing is if you look at the insights that you gather from an experiment, those insights are really valuable. If you look at the general trend of your conversion rates over a long period of time, yes, it's all going to go up and down. It's going to be hard to see the wood for the trees, but you have to test it. You have to kind of trust that the process is working. That yes, you're going to see everything's incremental, and it's going to seem like it's a never-ending fighting battle, but you are making a difference over time, and you will eventually see it. But it's just that it's so noisy that it's hard to get a concrete answer that you can from A/B testing. Which is why going back to the original point that you were making, really astute point, which is basically it's once you see these results, it's so tempting to kind of like go, okay, then I can easily figure this out. But you run a controlled test, and now you're trying to place a controlled test back into the sea, basically back into the ocean where it's all noisy and there's lots of variables going. Yes, we know that this new test is going to swim well in that ocean, but you're not going to necessarily be able to pinpoint it and see, hey, that trail in the ocean, that's the new fish I taught to swim better and threw it back in or whatever. So yeah, you just have to trust that the process is working, I guess is my point.
I don't know. That's something that I struggle with. Like, you can't say just trust me, bro, and be like, oh, I'm being scientific and running experiments. There's a mental disconnect there.
There is mental
I understand what you're saying, but it's I don't know. This is a long-term struggle for experimentation space.
But you
Is
do, if you're running experiments long enough, you do see the
Yes.
trends.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
do
I
see
have
a
a
general trend, but you can't treat. It's not necessarily that you can trace it back to the experiments because there's so much going on the website with marketing, with all this kind of stuff.
experimentation is an attempt to try and answer business questions based on data, essentially. Like, you have a question of like, "Oh, uh, if we make this change, what happens?" Or even more broadly, like, we have a problem that we've identified, like, "Oh, our conversion rate is going down." Well, experimentation is going to try and solve that problem or identify the root cause of like, "Hey, if we're running, you know, uh, a 3 or 6 month series of tests on conversion rate to see if we can change its direction and nothing's happening," well, then maybe that points to the answer of like, oh, there's not like the problem isn't on the site itself. Maybe something has happened with marketing or traffic generation effort.
Mm. Yeah, and also if you look at it from the reason, like going back to your the decision making process, sort of is a decision making tool, is kind of like if you look at it from a problem based perspective, as to with running these experiments to try and solve these specific problems that a user has, then going back to the fact that the most valuable thing that comes out of experiments are insights, and those insights have a value themselves. And I guess it's kind of like trying to really, not necessarily champion those insights, but trying to highlight those insights,
Mhm.
as well as looking at it from a financial perspective, which obviously you need to do as well. But,
A little adage that I use, and I don't know if I picked this up from someone else or I made it up myself, but it was um, you don't get ROI from experiments. You get ROI from your experimentation program
yeah.
as a whole. Like, it's the cumulative effect of all of the work that is being done rather than being able to pinpoint like a single thing that a single test or that was run or something.
Yeah. Like I say, when you look at it over a long enough period of time, you can definitely see, well, that this is from my experience anyway. You can see a trend in terms of an improvement to conversion rate. You can not necessarily pin it back to experimentation, but it's an improvement that is there. Is if you wanted to prove it back to the experiment, and this is what I've seen a lot of other uh, sort of places kind of champion as well, is to have a holdout group, which I'm not a big fan of. To have a holdout group and then just to chart the results of the holdout group against the traffic that you've been experimenting on. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. But yeah, it is something that people do as
But
well.
that's an interesting way to try and like at least more in a numerically sound way evaluate the performance impact over time of like, okay, we've run tests for 6 months. Here's how the holdout group has performed for those 6 months. Um, Here's how all the users that have been exposed to the results of our changes, like, okay, the holdout group versus the non-holdout group, comparing the performance. If the non-holdout group is better, then that's showing the efficacy of the experimentation
Yeah. And
program.
I'm not saying that this is a good way to do it because, with cookies and stuff like that, it's very tough to do the holdout
Yeah,
groups. I'm
now you're
not
right.
saying
Now you're getting into technical issues rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
statistical issues, but
But yeah, I'm not like I say, I'm not a fan of doing the holdout groups. I'm just saying that, there are people who like to do it, who champion doing it. And yeah, I'm not one of those, but
all right,
cool.
good deal. Anything else to cover with extrapolation or annualization?
Other than yeah, try not to do it.
Long story short, don't annualize the results from your test, or at
Or
least
don't
don't do
believe
it
it.
in a simplistic
Yeah.
fashion. Like,
Or
if
don't
that's
believe it even.
yeah, if that's a road that you want to go down, that's gonna be all consuming. And if that's a nut that you can crack, you'll be getting a lot of money because you'll be
Yes.
able to predict behavior. All right, good deal. Well, thanks for listening. If you have any questions or feedback, you can always talk to me and Iqbal face to face at CRO Roundtable every Friday at conversionworld.co. If you're shy or you don't like speaking, you can connect with either of us on LinkedIn, and we will catch you next time.